Hey crew, welcome to ASTROHUNKS, the series in which I interpret the birth charts of famous celebrities for your viewing pleasure. In today's video, we are going to be dealing with the birth chart of one hot tamale, Matthias Schoenaerts. Matthias Schoenaerts is a Belgian actor. He's a rising star among the Hollywood ranks at the moment, although he has an extensive career here in Europe. You might have seen him in movies such as Suite Française, Bullhead, the amazing movie called Rust and Bone, or Far from the Madding Crowd. He's a versatile actor. He can play both in romantic movies and in equally violent and tough movies. And there is a reason for that, and it pertains to the karmic points in his astrological chart. Matthias Schoenaerts is actually an acquired taste for me. He's not an actor that I was immediately drawn towards as a viewer. On the contrary, the more movies I watched with him, and he appeared in a slew of them in the last 10 years, the more I started to feel pulled into his energy. I'm so excited to get into the 5 markers that I feel stand out from his birth chart. But before I do so, have a look at his chart. Number 1. One of the most significant markers in his birth chart is Matthias's cluster of planets in the first house in the sign of Sagittarius. These planets are really important to his development and sense of being in the world because he's the sun in Sagittarius. That's his identity, his goals in life. He is meant to grow, to have experiences, to be optimistic, to be like a philosopher, to experience a lot of things in life, to have fun, to inspire other people through his passion. He's not meant to be a steady guy that commits to one thing and just follows a daily routine. As a Sagittarius sun, he's meant to travel the world. He's meant to have adventures. Life is a big adventure to him. However, his sun has a really interesting exact conjunction to his Neptune in Sagittarius. And both of these planets are parked in his first house. This gives him a Piscean-like quality. So whatever ego, slightly arrogant, maybe over the top energy that he might have sometimes when he vibes in a low Sagittarius energy is counteracted by Piscean self-sacrifice. I think that our Matthias is actually a sweetheart because with a sun in the first house, he might actually be the kind of person that can get quite cocky, you know? He can be like, move aside, I can do this, I'm the hero, I'm the best. But the fact that Neptune is actually restraining this energy, creating a little bit of fog, confusion, illusions in the way in which he perceives himself, tells me that he doubts himself. He doesn't think that he's the best. He's trying to be the best, but then he might have moments when whatever it is that he wanted to achieve kind of gets diluted around him. Not only that, but as you can see, his ascendant is here in the first house in Sagittarius. So he's got a very popular outlook on life. He is very broad-minded. He's open-minded as well. And he attracts a lot of people that teach him positive lessons. He grows by coming in contact with other people. Sagittarius ascendants are also people that do not like to be tied down to one space, one job, one relationship. They have a problem with commitment, you know, they have itchy feet. As soon as something bothers them or brings them down or stifles their freedom, they tend to get up and go. But at the same time, they are incredible teachers, they are adventurers, they lunge forward with a lot of confidence into whatever projects life puts them on their path, and they inspire others to be brave, to study, to grow, to learn, to develop. Our man here has Venus conjunct his rising. Now, just as a small lesson in astrology, for those of you that are keen to learn more, when we have a cluster of planets in one house, if the ascendant is cutting them, it is so given, there is this astrological rule that whatever planets are parked above the rising, so above your ascendant, are placed in the 12th house, and whatever planets are parked beneath the rising or the ascendant are parked in your first house. So he has Neptune and the sun exactly conjunct in Sagittarius in his first house, the house of his body, his identity, his consciousness. And then Venus is right on top of his ascendant, but it is in the 12th house. So this guy has an almost nebulous need to be loved. It's almost as if he's looking for the ideal in a partner. He idealizes women. He is capable of unconditional love, but he might feel that he gives too much in relationships while not feeling like he is replenished or he gets enough from these personal connections. But he's always chasing the perfect person for him, and he's really attracted to kind-hearted, idealistic and soft people, poetic people, artistic people. No wonder that, from what I understood by doing some research on his background, Matthias actually was a graffiti artist in his teens. So it's a really interesting perspective that he was drawn to art, because with so much energy in Sagittarius, this is the expressive artist, the unconventional adventurer, the explorer of the world. A lot of famous painters, musicians, actors are born in the sun of Sagittarius. And for him, this energy is amplified because he has Venus there, so he comes across as very beautiful. He attracts a lot of women in his life. He is also confident, but not to a very cocky or arrogant extent, because we have Neptune here that tempers him down a little bit and kind of makes him doubt his own capacity from time to time. The fact that if you have Neptune in the first house on the rising or in the 10th house on your midheaven, this is the traditional marker that this person will be successful in the world of cinema. He shares this placement, Neptune in the first house, so close to the rising, with another famous Hollywood star, Marilyn Monroe. So she had Neptune in Leo in the first house. So we see here, just by looking at this small cluster of planets, we already found out so many things about him. Yeah, it's interesting, you know, because he played in a movie called Mustang, you know, and he's a Sagittarius. Sagittarius is the sign represented by the centaur, right? Half horse, half man. Mustang, Matthias, Sagittarius. No. If we also take into account not only the cluster of planets, how many planets are close in what sign and in which house, but also the aspects that are being made to this Sagittarius stellium, we see here that our man is heavily supported by his actions. So he has here a lot of trines, harmonious, full of energy, optimistic, positive aspects from his Mars in Leo in the 8th house, which we're going to talk about in a second, because woof, that's dynamite in bed. But we also see here that the glyph of the planet Saturn, and Saturn is actually creating red lines. Those are squares in a birth chart. That means an aspect of tension. So basically, Saturn squaring his Venus is telling me that he has some problems earning money. He has to work really hard to keep and maintain his money, also because his sense of self-worth is dwindling. So paradoxically, he might come across as very masculine, as very in control of himself, but his relationships are challenging his financial health and also his sense of self-worth. And now I want to move on to another significant marker in his chart that is very closely tied into this Venus square Saturn and his stellium in Sagittarius. Number 2, Matthias has a very intense karmic destiny in this lifetime. He has a south node in Aries in the 4th house, the house of home, roots, your culture, your mother. So that is his comfort zone, being supported and sustained by family finances, family routines, the privacy of the home. But at the same time, because it's a south node in Aries, he paradoxically feels closest to men. He feels much more akin to a sense of brotherhood. He feels much more relaxed dealing with men, jumping into action, not thinking too much. This is not the kind of guy that finds it comfortable to put his feelings into words, to sit and debate a lot about what he wants to do, to consult other people and take in their opinions. This is a guy that he wants it, he sees it, he goes for it, you know, veni vidi vici kind of guy. This is a south node in Aries. One fun fact that I need to mention is that I'm actually filming this with the energy of the full moon in Aries, which is at the moment conjunct his south node in Aries. He's comfortable taking action. He's charmingly spontaneous, charismatically impetuous. People love that kind of like free thinking energy because it unblocks you. But at the same time, I think that it's causing him certain commitment issues in his partnership. No wonder that he is 44 years old and he is a bachelor. So that leads me to think that he is not yet fulfilling his dharmic purpose. So whenever we have a South Node in Aries, then the opposite is a North Node in Libra. And look at this. This is fascinating. His North Node is in Libra, in the opposite house from the 4th house, the 10th house, the house of your career, your legacy, your public image. And look at this really beautiful aspect. He has Pluto there. Pluto conjunct the North Node. Wow. And in the 10th house. This means that he has a very polarizing public image. You either love him or you hate him. What I said at the beginning applies very well to this kind of dynamic. As I said, he grew on me. He's not an actor that I immediately saw him and thought, wow, he's so beautiful or so talented, like Ryan Gosling is to me. Anyway, more about that in another ASTROHUNKS. Coming back to Matthias, he has a very intense persona. He chooses intense roles. No wonder that he played a Nazi and he made you fall in love with him, with the love story that developed between him and Michelle Williams in Suite Française. At the same time, he's also bringing his partner, Marion Cotillard, who, by the way, is a sun in Libra, so her sun is illuminating his Pluto and his North Node, and that was one of the defining roles of his career when he played in Rust and Bone with her, and he was basically the character of a boxer that is trying to survive in the world with his son. He's a single father, and is bringing this woman back to life through his sheer determination, through his masculinity, through his body. All those aspects that you see in the birth chart are playing so beautifully regarding the roles that he plays. So it's fascinating. I love it so much. It gives me tingles whenever I see how beautifully the inner world of a person is manifested into the reality they are creating. Number 3. Now, this is a very interesting guy from the point of view of his feelings. He is meant to come into this incarnation to work at relationships, to fall in love, to give himself to a commitment. With a South Node in Aries and a North Node in Libra, this is a guy that likes his lone wolf dominion. He likes his family, he likes his private space, he is ultra independent. With a stellium in Sagittarius and a South Node in Aries, this is a guy that is like acting and leaving, you know, he is not one to stay or to commit. Although there is a deep hunger and desire in him to establish emotional intimacy. And this is the significant aspect of point number 3, Moon glyph conjunct Uranus. Moon conjunct Uranus talks about a lot of chaos, emotional chaos, a lot of upheaval that he experienced in his relationship to his mother as he was growing up. His mother could be a very fiercely independent woman, very close to her, and from what I gathered from the research I did, he seems to be very close to her, he seems to respect her, and she seems to be a very fierce woman, and also quite open-minded and independent, right? So from an early age, I think she instilled in him this idea that, you know, you are your own person. You don't have to rely on other people. South Node in Aries. But at the same time, Scorpio. Now, this is a really interesting aspect because the way he feels is almost as if you take an Aquarius and you blend it with a Scorpio. And what two signs are more different in a birth chart than Aquarius, the sign of emotional detachment, I'm doing me, I'm original, I go my own way, and Scorpio, the sign of I need to be with you, mind, body, and soul. I cannot understand myself outside of intimacy, outside of these deep bonds of trust and connection with other people. So on one hand, I feel like he's being torn apart between his intensity of feelings, but then he can be spontaneous and create surprises and walk away from relationships and end them very quickly or begin them very quickly and shock people most of the time through these emotional ways of being. I think that this guy has a temper, okay, with so much Sagittarius energy in his chart and a South Node in Aries. When he doesn't want something or he doesn't like it, he feels fenced in. I'm pretty sure that he tends to explode on people. At the same time, I do think that the energies that we talked beforehand with Venus here and Neptune conjunct his Sun, he apologizes as well. He's aware. He's capable of saying, I'm sorry, please forgive me, I forgive you. Because Neptune colors his whole Sun, his solar consciousness, with this understanding that he, as I said before, he is not the best of the best in the world. He can be quite humble, right? Sagittarius energy is excitable and a little bit bombastic. And I do feel that he's keeping that tightly under wraps because his public image, as we talked here with Pluto in the 10th house, is very scorpionic, very mysterious, very masculine, very stealth, very stoic. But this guy is actually much more fiery, much more passionate. I think in time with communication, because Uranus is a lot about putting your feelings into words, which he is not comfortable with, but in time, if he does that, he is able to fulfill his dharma. He's able to negotiate an equally pleasing love connection or successful business partnerships that get him the desired outcomes through patience, through consideration of other people's needs, and by talking about what he's feeling, because this guy feels a lot, okay? And that's what makes him such a good actor. The fourth significant aspect is a combination of two aspects in his birth chart. So our man has a Mercury in Capricorn, and in the second house, Mercury in Capricorn is famous for being a slow developer in terms of verbal speech. He didn't have an easy time in school. While growing up, I'm sure that he found homework boring. I'm sure that he didn't have the patience, or it was very difficult for him to comprehend abstract and really deep concepts. I have a feeling as well that with Saturn here in the 9th house, the house of higher education, academia, being in that environment of people that just sit around and talk about ideas, concepts, poetry, philosophy, is something that both attracts him but repels him at the same time. Access to higher education has been frequently denied in his life. And it's interesting because he actually considered a career as a soccer player before he went down the acting path. And I am tempted to say that with the North Node in Libra, with Saturn in the 9th house, and with Mercury in Capricorn, he's struggling so much to learn his lines. He's struggling as well to speak many different languages, and he does so with fantastic grace in most of his movies. But the more he practices throughout his life, the better he will become at it. So this is a guy that is learning how to talk. He's learning how to think. He's learning how to believe in abstract concepts and ideas. He's learning how to mentor other people, how to put his rich inner world of emotions, with the moon in Scorpio and Neptune conjunct his Sun. This guy is full of fantasies. He's full of rich, deep, imaginative ideas. No wonder he wanted to be an artist when he was younger. He's learning how to put all of that wonderful, rich inner universe into words. But he's doing this with a lot of mental effort, with a lot of carefulness and precision. And I saw his interviews as well. He does take time to consider what he's saying, or he speaks very curtly, briefly, with consideration. But it makes me feel that he really had to think a lot about what he had to say. There is a certain anxiety here with Mercury in Capricorn and with Saturn in Virgo in the 9th house. It's almost as if he's afraid that what he's saying can cut other people down or hurt other people. He's also, I'm sure, on the back end of this, receiving certain criticism in his personal connections as well as at work. So there might be some difficulties there expressing his lines, because the 2nd house represents the area of work, and the 9th house represents our connection with international people. He played in a number of international movies with international casts, and I'm sure that for him, that was something really difficult. Saturn shows us where we have an inner battle, where we have to struggle and be very determined in order to be successful. But I'm seeing how Matthias is really acing this energy because he's able to deliver his lines with powerful impact and intensity. Fun thing that I like to do in the ASTROHUNKS series, and it's something that we created together on Instagram based on your input, is to try to imagine, based on the position of his birth charts, what kind of lover would he be? I think that The most significant aspect in his chart that shows us how he is in the bedroom, how he behaves as a lover, is Mars in Leo in the 8th house. I'm really sorry about the glare, but you see here Mars in Leo at 11 degrees in the 8th house. So the 8th house is the house of sex, the house of transformation, taboos, finances, shared intimacy, establishing deep trust, those life and death bonds. Intensity, death, violence, transformation are also the themes of the movies that he played in. So he's using this energy and uplifting it. He's transmuting it for our viewing pleasure on the screen. But at the same time, it's fascinating that we see here how his Mars in Leo is actually squaring of two planets, the Moon and Uranus conjunct in Scorpio in his 11th house. The 11th house is the house of technology, your vocation, being together with a group of friends. For him, with a Sagittarius stellium and his moon in the 11th house, his friends are so important to him. His co-workers are his emotional stability. He feels replenished when he's part of a group of people, whether that group of people is the people that he's working with, the people that he's teaching, the people that he is meeting on a daily basis, maybe his fan group, right? His fandom, his fanzine, or his immediate intimate group. However, this is posing a significant tension with what he's doing in the bedroom, with a kind of secretive liaison that he is entertaining. Although Leo energy here in one of the darkest houses of the zodiac talks about a person that is not very hush-hush about his conquests. He is quite open. We get to see the fact that he dated a couple of people. We know who were his girlfriends, even though he decided not to commit. Fun fact, I also noticed that his longest relationship was with a gorgeous woman called Alexandra. So, Matthias, if you're watching this, call me. Anyway, coming back to his Mars and Leo in the 8th house. So this talks to me about a lover that is really in it to win it. He is quite in charge in the bedroom at the same time, because it's Leo energy. So we have to think here of a mixture of Scorpio and Leo, light and dark. He might love to give pleasure as much as he likes to receive pleasure, but he can be quite spontaneous. He can be quite erratic because of the fact that his Mars is sitting in tension with his moon. So his feelings, the moon, can sometimes frustrate his actions, his Mars. He might do things in secret and then come out into social groups and maybe be chastised for what he has done. Or the time that he needs to spend within social groups are really affecting the trust and intimacy that he could give to a partner, thereby leading to complications in fulfilling his uncomfortable North Node in Libra, the sign of love, relationships, and fair and square gender equal arrangements. So he's constantly in the process of transforming through his partnership with a Pluto in Libra. He's a really intense lover. This is a guy that really can please someone in the bedroom, but he equally expects somebody else to please him, to treat him like the king that he is, Mars and Leo. So there is an interesting aspect here between sometimes potentially self-sabotaging his love connections, sacrificing them for the benefit of the group, 11th house, his vocation, his connections to his co-workers. And indeed, so far, I don't see him resolving this intimate tension, and I wish him all the best on this pathway, because it's not really that easy to have a North Node conjunct Pluto and to constantly have to go through transformation upon transformation. But he chose an excellent avenue through which he can do this on a higher minded plane, which is the world of cinema, the world that we as well get to participate in and enjoy it. If he would not have played this energy on a higher ground, I have a feeling that this guy could have actually ended in some pretty thick problems with the law, with institutions that uphold the law and order, because naturally he's not comfortable following the rules. Not only that, but Matthias also has another significant marker which tells me that whenever he's trying to get too arrogant or too cocky, there are some placements in his birth chart that actually make him be quite spiritual, quite emotional, and quite sensitive. So he has a moon in Scorpio, which we talked about. His sun is conjunct Neptune, which makes him act like a Pisces. And also he has Jupiter in Cancer in the 7th house. This is the house of the shadow. So he has a very large shadow, which he came with in this lifetime to integrate. By relating to other people, he gets his energy, he gets his growth, he gets his happiness from being in partnerships. So we see how beautifully Jupiter in the 7th house is helping him fulfill his North Node in Libra in the 10th house. I'm getting a sense that this guy is actually feeling much more happier at work than in personal connections. I'm getting a sense that he is flooded with offers to work on a daily basis, but he really needs to put in the hard work to maintain these connections, Libra, maintaining partnerships and making sure that there is an equal give and take in that partnership, but also in learning his lines and speaking in certain accents. Okay, remember, Mercury in Capricorn in the 2nd house, he earns his money by doing something mental, by speaking, by communicating. But with Capricorn energy there, this comes through time with a lot of effort. So Jupiter in Cancer in the 7th means that he's quite nurturing with other people. Means that he enjoys children a lot. Children make him happy. I generally think that he would love to have a big family, and this is a marker as well, Jupiter in the 7th house, of a person that might marry more than once in this lifetime. That is kind of like the lower integration of this energy. But if he vibes high with this energy, this means that he will fall in love, or he will meet and connect with a partner that is deeply spiritual. He might take up with a lover that is working in the clergy, right? So he might take up with a priestess, or who knows, an occult teacher, a spiritualist. Chart is a beautiful mixture of water and fire. This guy is really, really emotional, really passionate, and has this really wonderful charm, you know, like very spontaneous. I'm sure that he's excellent at improvisation, and he has the self-expression capacity beaming out of him. That's why he got to be an artist. That's why he considered a career in sports, and then he ended up being an actor, a profession that allows him to constantly transform himself and fulfill his North Node in Libra conjunctus Pluto. I really hope you have enjoyed this video. I try not to make it too long, but I am having so much fun getting into these interpretations. I could talk all day about his birth chart, but I wanted you to have just at least 5 important markers in Matthias Schoenaerts' chart. Let me know if you enjoy him as an actor. Let me know if you have certain placements that he has in the chart as well. Also, let me know who you would like me to do next. I have a long list to go through, but I'm always happy to hear suggestions from you guys. And if you're thinking about getting a birth chart interpretation from me, just so you know, I offer these. Link is in the description box below. Thank you so much for your attention and listening, and I hope to see you in my next one.